It's Sunday, March 8th, and we're finally seeing a cool down in our severe weather activity across the US. Instead of seeing a massive risk that covers up to 50 million people, instead, today we're only seeing a little circle over parts of eastern North Carolina and just a general risk for some thunderstorms. Now, luckily, this pattern is going to continue into tomorrow, where we still see just a marginal risk and then maybe just a general threat of thunderstorms. But after that, we're going to see a little bit of a uptick returning to our more active pattern as we see a pretty large day 4 15% risk, which covers a lot of the southern central plains, even moving up a little bit into the Ohio River Valley. And then we also have a day 5 as well, which really covers the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys quite a bit. But focusing on today, we're going to start south and move north. It looks like it's really going to start with a couple of storms down south. One is going to be the remnants of our line from yesterday pushing through the Florida Panhandle, and then some storms kind of initiated from a little wave moving through out here in parts of southern Texas. I actually think these could have the chance to be somewhat strong, maybe produce some small hail, but that's going to be really the maximum extent of what these are really going to be capable of doing. And I do not think they're going to have that great of a chance of going severe. Now, moving a little bit more to the east, we're going to look at this line moving through the Florida Panhandle. This might look fairly organized and somewhat mean, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. The ingredients going into this are not super well, and it doesn't really have synoptic backing anymore, nor does it have backing from that cool front. So it looks like by lunch, it's really going to fall apart, and we're not going to see reinitiation of thunderstorms in Florida until midday when we get quite a bit of convergence in the central part of the state. And then these are going to move eastward out towards the Atlantic. Now we're going to move up towards our most active area up here in the mid-Atlantic. And that's, of course, going to be our eastern North Carolina risk. And we're going to see that storms don't really get their act together until probably about mid-afternoon. This would be about 4 p.m. where we start to see hints of things going on. We see kind of just an area of light showers moving through that's going to be associated with some synoptic stuff as well. Then we start seeing a couple of blips in front of our big front as well as our trough come in. And that's what the main risk of this is going to be for. With the environment, these tiny little blips might have the chance to cluster and even start rotating. So there is going to be a chance of some small hail and maybe damaging winds. It's going to be pretty brief though, and that risk is going to be pretty much done probably an hour after sunset. And then also there are a couple of storms which do look a little interesting down here in parts of eastern South Carolina. These don't really have the ingredients though to do that much, so I wouldn't worry too much about them, but I definitely think those will still be some decently strong thunderstorms, just not severe. And one of the main reasons why it looks like we're going to have a very isolated severe weather threat out here today in eastern North Carolina is going to be with some of our trough in the 500 millibar levels. And it looks like it's is going to interact with this area probably the most out of any of the other areas today, which are going to see thunderstorms. And kind of like yesterday in the northeast, it looks like the combination of some synoptic forcing happening as well. It's just providing some better T-player shear to the region is going to be one of the reasons why this region specifically might actually perform a little better. So now we're going to take a quick look from a weather sounding. This is specifically from southeastern North Carolina. And now I do think the instability here is a little bit overcooked, but really the main thing about this area is that it's going to be the only region today seeing thunderstorms that's going to sniff close to 1,000 instability other than those storms down in South Texas. But this is going to have a better mesh of ingredients. We're seeing close to 40 knots of deep layer shear, close to 1,000 cape, and then over 103 cape in some isolated areas. And this is a fairly favorable thermodynamic profile. We would like to see the dew point be a little bit higher, but 62 or 80 over 62, and then fairly high lapse rates, especially at the lower levels all the way up. Not really seeing any capping going on in this little area, dry air loft. Also, all of this cape up here as well. That's kind of the reason why there is a little bit of a threat, very conditional for hail, not that large though. And then, of course, in the lower levels, this photograph is in no way favorable for tornadoes. That's why there's not a tornado risk. And I don't even really think it's going to be that favorable for severe weather in general. This is probably a big weakness with our setup. But nevertheless, if we do see these storms cluster in what's going to be thermodynamically and instability wise and even deep layer shear wise, not that poor of an environment, there's definitely going to be that possible very isolated threat for maybe a severe storm or two.